Hello there, and hello to you too. Vlogging with Gibster, back for new episodes of the Ugalki region. Back here where we do a little tweaking. I'm your host, your favorite ninja Gibster. Let's take a look at this cool monster. So, today in this episode of Pokemon Lifting Light and Dark Type, we take a look at the next grass type Pokemon, aka the last Pokemon that can be found in Route 1. But don't worry, directly after that is Route 2. So, how about we take a look at this last little Pokemon, which is a redesign of an old one that had nothing to do with Greece, except for the fact that this is a native animal. The theme of it has nothing to do with it. I just wanted to do a little fun, and there will be a couple of other Pokemon that have absolutely nothing to do with Greece too. But a lot of Pokemon aren't in a region aren't always to do with that region. However, I like to make sure a good chunk of them are. Now, if you guys remember Marteaf from my old decks, well, here is redesigned, of course, going in with a trio of the Phoenix Pokemon, Fimagosa, of course, that being a redesign of its fire-type counterpart of the fake starters that I made, which is sort of just, the other fire, grass, water type early route, which, speaking of that water type, will be remade, which means that the lampposts will be returning. However, that will not be anytime soon. That will either be Route 4 or somewhere else. This is the new redesign of Marteaf. It is based on a beach marten, which is a native animal to Greece, so bask in all its glory. Now, of course, some things that I want to go over in the design, of course, better shading. The main redesign aspects is that I have really added up to these stuff. So since this is now, I've changed it from my own thing to just being fake Pokemon itself. I wanted to deny it, that it wasn't Pokemon, but I had to just say that's the entire reason it was there, and it makes it more lovable because I get to do things like regional variants and regional fakes. Speaking of, guys, if you have any ideas for regional fakes that I could use for Greece, please let me know down in the comments below. So, today we will be going over the evolution line of Marteaf. Marteaf is the only one that keeps its name. The other two, well, I'll explain it like this. This one has a complete redesign while keeping its name. The evolution has a new name, but just has additions to it to make it look better. The last one is completely new. New name, new design, new everything. Right, okay, so this has a vine tail. Of course, having the grass coming out of it, having vine whiskers, which, no, it's not facial hair. It's not meant to be facial hair. It's literally just vine whiskers here. And a big vine tail, which has this weird, I guess you could say, tribal marking on the tail. Which you guys will remember that if you remember the old Marteaf. I also changed the eyes from brown to black, and I also added markings to the face. I also gave it the proportions of a starter Pokemon, because I feel like the proportions of a first stage starter Pokemon of recent days is the perfect proportions for a first stage Pokemon. And I know there's lots of ones that break that, like Rhyhorn, which when I do the redesign of it on Instagram, you guys should follow me on Instagram, Gib1507. You have to follow to see everything because it's a private account. But you guys should definitely follow. I'll link it in the description. So let's go over the dex entry for Marteaf. So this is a pure grass type. It is the marking Pokemon. Marteaf are very timid Pokemon and will often snuggle with their thick vine tails to make them feel safe. Living in a tribe-like style, the job of the Marteaf is to reinforce the markings that mark the barriers of their village, using their diet of berries, not that unlike Grafaiai. It is the 19th Pokemon, and at level 15 it evolves into Evanuok. By the way, that's Martin and Leaf if you guys didn't know. this is Evanuok, which follows a sort of same name convention etymology as Ekans and Arbok. It is basically the name of the animal backwards, of course this being Greek for the animal since the region is based on Greece, and as you can see it does look somewhat still like Kurardi, which you can already see if you were to say that backwards. Kunavi, of course you can still hear that I've still kept the same etymology. Now here I don't have that board in, that is just because in the other one it had it shade boring from brown to black. Here it's just black. There's a clear border for when it goes to brown. The tribal markings are on the face. There's even, I've made the whisker vines darker. I've made the ears better. And I've that there. If only that became something when it evolved. I have made these markings better also to just into a design proportion that is going to come in when the evolution hits. Now here of course a different but similar spiral marking there on the tail, and here a second tail popping out of it, of course out of these still bushy things there. So Evanuok, which is how you say it. Etymology, of course, I already explained. Now, let's read the dex entry. Dex entry for this is, it is a pure grass type, also the marking Pokemon. Evanuok are the main hunters of their tribes, since the Marteaf are too scared, and the Marteaf are the main protectors and trainers. They take up this job by burden, feeling they need to make up for their timid past. They tend to hunt at dawn and dusk, being excellent swimmers and very untrusting. So this is of course the 20th Pokemon in the dex, and at level 30 it evolves into Marteaf. Marteaf. This from out in there, so Marteaf. As you can see, the two tails have really evolved, and I will go over that later. However, this is completely different. I will still go over how it's different from Figarse, even though it is completely different Pokemon. So the markings here, they were based on Mega Sceptile. I've changed into this very bushy thing. I literally looked up tribal god and made it look like this, of course, with grass type things here. I even looked up a tribal mask, the ears now being pointed and going in the horns of said mask, and the helmet that was on Evanuok is now in that tribal mask, sort of like Kabunga from Looming Legacy. Like that's what I based it on. I didn't base it in any god markings or something like that. I literally just looked up Kabunga and made a similar pattern. Of course, the eyes there under the face. Now, of course, here the two tails. That's where this all comes out there. Whiskers, it's just thicker. Those thick just thick neck fur there, and here we have markings on the tail, on this tail specifically, because that's the same tail that always had the markings, and on the chest here. Now here, that was literally just for design, also to make them similar to the hands, which also stop like that as well. And they have these little human Charizard like claws here, of course being mammalian, not reptilian, but anyway. And we have a tail here that starts here and goes all the way up there to form a sort of blade. And this one, you guys might not know what weapon that is over here. Of course, still kept the stem of the leaf. Now, going into this. Now, I actually posted this on my Instagram early, so that's another reason to follow that, because you will get to see these earlier, 1 week earlier than you're supposed to. And to make an account on Instagram is free, so you guys should definitely follow that. These videos are just to explain their origins, because I don't do that on the Instagram posts themselves. And the dex entry. By the way, Voldenki is not going to be the next one redesigned. The next one that's going to go in here is the first Route 2 Pokemon, which is a redesign of an old one. However, it might as well just be a rework, because it's not going to have the same name. Certainly going to have a very different design. Anyway, so the type of this one is grass and fighting, and it is known as the Guardian Pokemon. Being the main protectors and caretakers. They have unknowingly burdened Vanuak to be the main hunters. Old lore speaks of an old god that protected tribes of past humans. The Marteaf is the descendant, are the descendants. Their vine tails can sprout and wilt for whip-like attacks, but one tail is as hard as a club, and the other as sharp as a knife. 21st Pokemon here. And of course, don't know if I mentioned it evolves at level evolves from Ivanuak at level 30. So that is all for today's video. Of course, the next video is a little something different. Of course, there's the characters one I mentioned, but there might be one or a couple before that ever happens. Maybe. Don't know. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time. And remember, your favorite ninja loves you.